What's going on, Jerome's? So the Minnesota Vikings obviously have been a lot of fun this year. 6-2, who would have knew? Exceeding all expectations. All the haters and the losers are in shambles. And if and when the Vikings get a win on Sunday, it notches up over their 6.5 win total. That was the over/under for most bookmakers before the start of the season. No big deal in Week 10, right? But the whole thing about the NFC is that people had written off the NFC. It's like, oh, the AFC is better, blah 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 blah. But it is a arms race in the National Football Conference, and the Vikings have a stretch of games in the next four where they got to go 4-0, right? And everyone is calling this part of the schedule the soft part. There's no soft part in the National Football League. You see it every single week. Hey, remember when the Raiders beat the Ravens? Weird stuff happens, and then the Panthers beat the Raiders the very next week. It's kind of funny, man. But the Vikings at Jacksonville, at Tennessee, at the Bears, and then hosting the Cardinals at home. It's not hyperbolic to say that the Vikings have to go 4-0 and maybe even run the rest of the table to be viable in the NFC as well as the NFC North. And all four of these games, the Vikings will be favored. Right now, they're 4.5 with Jacksonville. That could change with Trevor Lawrence very likely to be out. And Mac Jones in a quarterback. So this really is a road warrior situation where the Vikings, it's really tough to win a game on the road. But also, I feel like the Vikings have been sufficiently humbled over the last couple of weeks, notably the Lions and the Rams game, and they found a way to win despite themselves against the Colts, where they're not going to take any opponent lightly, which can happen when things happen so easily for you, like the first 5 games of the year for the Vikings. And just look in the NFC, like we said, it is racked up and stacked up, man. And the Lions, respect, sitting on top at 7-1. The Vikings losing one of the first two tiebreakers against them head to head, but we'll see them again, right? And hopefully having the viability of that Week 18 game for all the marbles would certainly be kind of nice. But the Vikings, 6-2, a bit of a logjam behind the Commies at number 2 at 7-2. The Eagles are also at 6-2, which I don't believe in the Eagles, but I mean they're there. Then they got the Falcons and Kirk Cousins, a lookalike comeback player of the year at 6-3. Showdown with them coming up as well. The greasy, grimy Green Bay Packers have gotten off the mat, even though the Vikings do have the first of 2 head-to-heads against them. And then you got the Cardinals, who are 5-4 and leading the NFC West at the moment in time, and the Vikings have them on the schedule at home in a month. Right, and then you got the Bears, the Rams, the Niners, the Bucks, the Seahawks. Like everyone is all bunched up there. So, like I said, it's not just completely beyond the pale to say that the Vikings have to go 4-0 these next 4 games, because also you got to keep pace with the Lions, and the Lions schedule, just call it what it is, right? So at Houston, that's going to be a big time game on Sunday Night Football. D'Amico Ryans and company, CJ Stroud, that they would love to take it to the Lions, although they won't have Nico Collins, the Michigan man. So, yeah. Then the Lions are hosting Jacksonville at home. They're at Indianapolis, which Colts, can we please just give them a game one time? And then short week on Thanksgiving, they're playing the Bears in the early game, which, I mean, division games are always tough. And then they got the Packers again the subsequent Thursday on Thursday night. But, I mean, what games, are you concerned about? The Bills game is going to be tough, but of course the Lions get that at home. I feel like the Lions have been tiptoeing through the tulips with the schedule. At Chicago, at San Francisco, maybe the Niners will have their ish together by then, so maybe that'll be a tough thing. And then you got the Vikings on Week 18 in a game that's probably going to get flexed Sunday Night Football, because it could be for everything. So look at the Lions schedule. How many losses do you see? Maybe the Texans give them trouble. I think the Bills game could be fantastic either way. Maybe the Packers get their stuff together. Who knows? And then San Francisco. So I think that there is 2 or 3 potential losses for the Lions in this spot. And like I said, every single week it's going to happen. Plus, the Lions are starting to have tier 1 team syndrome, where you're going to get the opposite squad's best shot every single week, right? Because they're sick of the headlines and all the media fawning and drooling over the success of your team. So they're going to get everyone's best shot, which is great. So say the Lions drop 3 in this spot, so they end up at 13-4, and the Vikings, they got to hold serve. Currently at 6-2, the The margin for error is very razor thin, and even if the Vikings beat the Lions Week 18, even up the season at 1-1. I mean, the Vikings can't drop any games. The Vikings have to be next to perfect down the stretch, and these next 4 games are games that you're going to be favored. You should win, and then you have to go out and win. And that's the thing, like good teams beat bad teams, and great teams win games that they should be winning, but also that they do it with authority. And the Vikings, even though they're dealing with injuries, even though everything is coming together, like there's really no excuses. Go out to Jacksonville, business trip, beat the Jaguars, beat the Titans the subsequent week. Go into Soldier Field and beat a kind of frisky but flawed Bears team, and then come on back home where you have this gorgeous 3-game homestand, beat the Cardinals, tough team, beat the Falcons, tough team, and then beat the Bears on Monday night to wearing the winter whiteout. And then, I mean, the rest of the way, like the only, after November 24th, the only outdoor game that you have is Seattle. And who knows if Seattle's going to be tough or not. Like, it really depends on week to week which team shows up. But the Vikings have a chance to make a lot of hay here, and they have to be perfect the next 4 weeks to keep pace with the Lions. And, like I said, I do think that the Lions get tripped up a time or two in the remaining games. Obviously, Week 18 against the Vikings, but there's no excuses. Like, they need to emerge from this, and with the December 1st win against the Cardinals, they have to emerge from this stretch 4-0. Like, they have to end up 10-2 after these 4 games. Otherwise, everything's going to be up in the air, because not just chasing after the NFC North division, not just chasing after the 1 seed, but some of these other teams could get hot too, and the Vikings jockeying for playoff seeding. Like, if they don't win the division, like, they could fall out of the wild card spots as well. So, got to fight 1 game at a time, and breaking down the season into quadrants. This quadrant is uber important. Have to go 4-0 here, but that's it. You guys know what to do. Skull, some production value.